Welcome back. Peach Jam, Nike Peach Jam semifinals. Team CP3 with a 14-point cushion at the half. And it's time to talk point guards. Welcome to Recruiting Nation. Got Adam Finkelstein, Jeff Borzello, John Stovall here. Time to talk point guards, guys. Maybe the best position in the 2016 class. Also happens to be the best position in the NBA right now. I'm going to put you guys on the spot. Start with you, Adam. Who is the best point guard in the country?
Wow, how about that?
Right off the rip.
Right, we're starting hot. Well, right now, it's Dennis Smith Jr., number 4 in the ESPN 100. That's who we have. I will say this, though. When we come out with our new rankings next month, there's going to be a debate, and frankly, I've got to wait the rest of the month before I decide where I fall on it.
I think after this week, I think De'Aaron Fox is a really good case. I think that he's been tremendous this whole week in terms of talent, in terms of quickness. He gets from end to end super fast, and I think just in this, today's NBA, I think he's sort of the perfect point guard, to move on to the next level.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's probably 6 elite guys in the class right now. Those two, Lonzo Ball, Tariq Gilbert, Frank Jackson. Those guys would be considered the elite guys right now.
Kobe Simmons.
Yeah, Kobe thank
Simmons,
you.
Yep.
Kobe Simmons, those 6 would be the guys.
Who do you see as having the highest upside at the next level down the road? Who are we going to be hearing about in the NBA as a guy that maybe has the highest upside?
I think Simmons probably does, just because of his size and his athletic ability.
I would say either Fox or Smith. To me, Smith, he's more of like a power guard, a Marcus Smart type of guy. What I love about Fox is his length, his size, and his ability to maneuver traffic. He's really natural when he just weaves in and out of defenders using both hands. He's wiry, he's athletic, and it's stuff that can't be taught.
I think that in the NBA, I think you guys are right, but in college, I think Frank Jackson has a case to be the most productive guard. He's still sort of a scoring guard more than a pure point guard, but he's had a tremendous spring, and he might have had the best maybe pass month or two of any point guard in the 2016 class, and I think he has a really good case to be in that elite of the elite in terms of point guards.
He might be the most college ready too. He's really skilled and really efficient right now.
Frank Jackson, a guy that a lot of people thought was going to take a 2-year Mormon mission after high school. Now it looks like he's leaning towards attending college. Who are the coaches or the programs, guys, that right now have a lot of pressure on them to have a solid or maybe spectacular recruiting class?
Well, I'll say this. A couple of months ago, I think UConn was at the top of that list. Kevin Ollie, there were a lot of rumors about him going to Oklahoma City, making the jump to the NBA. Jalen Adams, who was his prize recruit, that made Jalen very, very nervous a couple of months ago. And so coming off a recruiting year right after that national championship where Jalen was the big pickup, he didn't get Isaiah Briscoe, he didn't get Derek Jones, didn't get Diamond Stone. They've really done some tremendous work in the last couple of months. They have Jalen Adams secured him. Now they've got Tariq Gilbert. So you have the next great UConn backcourt tandem. And they also salvaged last year's class because they absolutely killed the transfer market. Sean Miller, Sterling Gibbs, Terry Larrier coming out of ECU. I think he's going to be a star. So I think UConn needed a big class, and I think they are well on their way to getting one.
I think North Carolina. I think that we talked a lot about them because of the NCAA investigation. I think that might have put them behind the 8 ball a little bit. I think that obviously cost them with Brandon Ingram, and he sort of come out and said that when he made his commitment. But in terms of 2016, I think they're going to need another good class. I mean, they're going to lose Marcus Page, Bryce Johnson, Joel James, Justin Jackson could go pro, Kennedy Meeks could go pro. So, I think they're running probably second or third for a lot of these elite guys. But guys like Tony Bradley, the big guy from Florida, Seventh Woods, I think is on top of their wish list. So they have a lot of targets. They're going to have to get a few of them. They're going to need at least 4 or 5 guys to really keep it moving going into 2016.
Yeah, I would say Kentucky. Anytime you're dealing with a lot of one-and-dones, that's going to put a lot of pressure for you to have a great class that following year with possibly Skull, Labissiere, Jamal Murray, and maybe even Isaiah Briscoe leaving this year. They're going to have another monster class next year. And if Harry Giles or Jayson Tatum don't choose Kentucky, they're going to have to really go out and get some guys. I think some of the top targets right now would be Miles Bridges and Kobe Simmons.
Dennis Smith, they're on hard too. Yep.
Dennis Smith also, yep.
Recently, Syracuse, the NCAA hit Syracuse with sanctions. Among those, the fact that they do not have 3 scholarships for the next 3 years. How important is that in these days? These days they're down to 10 scholarships. How important is it? What type of effect will that be on Jim Boeheim?
I think first they're down 3 scholarships. They also have the amount of time they're allowed out was severely reduced. To me, one of the things they did, which was really smart to help rectify that, was they shored up Hopkins. Mike Hopkins is the coach in waiting. There's no more ambiguity about that. It's a sure thing, and that to me was the biggest factor for them, because 10 scholarships, I think the thing most people don't realize, Syracuse very rarely used all 13. So they always left a couple to play with. One interesting note, though, they used one of those 10 on Providence transfer Pascal Chukwu, so now they've only got 9 going to be on the active roster.
I think they're in okay shape for the next couple of years, and I think, you mentioned Mike Hopkins. I think that took some of the uncertainty away. They got Matt Moyer, 2016 commitment already. He's an ESPN 100 kid, and they're going after point guards. Tyus Battle is, top of their hit list. If they get him, they're pretty much done in 2016, so it kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off if they got things done early.
Coming back, second half, Team CP leads 14 points. We'll talk to Brad Beal in the second half. Harry Giles, 6 points. We'll see what he's got in the second half.
Halftime at the Nike EYBL Peach Jam Championship game. It's 49-42. The Georgia Stars in front of the St. Louis Eagles. And welcome to our Recruiting Nation set. Mike Couzens with Recruiting Nation analysts Adam Finkelstein, Jeff Borzello, and John Stovall. Earlier today, if you didn't join us, number 2 in the ESPN 100, Jayson Tatum made his verbal commitment to Duke. Now, it's not all that surprising, as most people felt like he was either going to be Duke or his hometown school, St. Louis University. But it does mean that Duke now has the inside track for the number 1 recruiting class for the 3rd straight year. So we see that he's going there. What does this mean now for the rest of players that Duke is recruiting, and for other schools perhaps? Maybe let's start with Harry Giles, who we just heard from as he talked to Jeff Goodman, who said, look, I want to support my teammate. I think it says a lot that he's here to support him. Do you think now this gives Duke the inside track for Harry Giles?
Well, I'll tell you what, to me, the most telling moment happened after that semifinal game when Harry Giles was downstairs in the locker room waiting for Jayson to congratulate him. We saw a very nice moment between those guys downstairs, and I thought that spoke volumes. Harry was visibly upset with the way they lost that game in that buzzer beater fashion, but it was very clear how genuine those two that relationship really is.
Yeah, I mean, they're clearly best friends, and people say that there's a good chance they're going to go to the same school, and now with Tatum going to Duke, and Duke's been thought of to be the leader for Giles for a while now. I just think that sort of solidifies them as the front runner. Heading out of the summer, it looks like they are the heavy favorites to land the number 1 and number 2 players in the country.
John, it certainly depends on what Harry Giles does, but do you think that Duke is on pace for a 3rd straight number 1 class?
Yeah, I mean, if you think if the cards fall right, Tatum, Giles, if they're able to pull off Marquise Bolden, Frank Jackson, that's a heck of a class.
Yeah, let's go a little bit deeper into that and talk about the other players that Duke's looking for. Last year it all started with Chase Jeter and Luke Kennard were the first 2 guys. Who else in the class of 2016 is Mike Krzyzewski going after, Jeff?
I think Frank Jackson is one of their primary point guard targets, and he's a guy that most people thought would do a Mormon mission before he enrolled in college and was going to go into basically 2018. But with bigger schools coming in the mix, Duke being one of them, I think he's really rethought that, and there's a good chance that he ends up just enrolling in college next year. He was once committed to BYU. He's since reopened that, and Duke's really made a push for him, and I think he's their top point guard target moving forward.
He really fits Duke, too. The way he plays, the ability to play both on and off the ball. He's super skilled. He can make shots, so he's going to be really good in their offensive structure right away. So I agree with you. I think he's a Duke lean right now, and I think he'll be great for them, too.
John, I know Jeff Goodman talked about this earlier in the day, but why do you think that Mike Krzyzewski and his staff have been on such a roll recruiting in the last few years?
Well, it's momentum. It continues to roll. Once you've got that class and you're winning championships, you're coaching Olympic teams, all those things roll together, and it allows you to have inroads with all these great players.
So Jayson Tatum, number 2 in the ESPN 100, is on his way to Duke. His best friend, Harry Giles, here in the Peach Jam Championship game, trying to urge him onto a title. It's the Georgia Stars up 49-42 at halftime. More coming with our Recruiting Nation crew. We'll take a look at the best NBA prospects in the high school game. It's the Peach Jam Jam title game here in North Augusta, South Carolina. 49-42. The Georgia Stars in the lead after 20 minutes over the St. Louis Eagles. Back here on our Recruiting Nation set, Mike Couzens with Jeff Goodman of ESPN.com, Paul Biancardi, ESPN's National Director of Recruiting, and Recruiting Nation analyst Adam Finkelstein. So number 2 is in the books. Jayson Tatum is on his way to Duke. This is a very great class. We debated earlier in the day 1, 2, and 3 with Harry Giles, Jayson Tatum, Josh Jackson. All make a legitimate case to be the number 1 player. But Paul, there's a lot of talk that 2016 has a lot more star power than previous years. Why is that the case?
Well, when you look at the top 5 spots, you talked about those 3 guys. Then you have Dennis Smith sitting at 4. A lot of people think he could be number 1. He's a number 1 point guard. And Malik Monk, who everyone is so high on, our staff loves him, he sits at 5. There's a lot of high lottery picks in the class of 2016. I think you can go 10, 15 deep when the 2017 NBA draft comes. I think we're going to see a lot of star power, Jeff.
Yeah, a lot of those NBA GMs right now should be dealing out of 2016 and into 17.
Absolutely.
Because there are a lot of really good players. You didn't mention Thon Maker, another guy that could be a lottery pick depending on what he does, where he ends up in college. But he's made, to me, terrific improvement. He plays hard, 7 foot, long, skilled. Monk, like you said, I mean, there's so many guys in this
Jonathan
class.
Isaac, another guy would add to
a
that.
high
Yep.
upside. This is as good a class as I've seen in a long time.
So for as far as NBA prospects go, past the class of 2016, perhaps number 1 on everybody's list right now is in 2017. That's DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, DeAndre Ayton is a special, special young talent. You know, we tend to really value potential over production early at this stage. He's battled some injuries this spring and into the summer, but he's very mobile. His measurables are off the charts. He's 6'11", bare feet, 7'5" wingspan, and he's got some skill away from the basket. So long term, his upside is really spectacular. You don't want to put those types of external pressures on a kid at this stage, but he's a special, special young guy.
But you're going to do it anyway, right?
That's right, yes.
No, and I saw Marvin Bagley here in the class of 2018. He's our number 1 player. He's special as well. He's more finesse and fluid. Ayton more dominates the game with his physical tools. The NBA, you know, their motto is to draft on upside and trade for need. When you look at these 5 prospects, they're either high lottery picks or number 1 picks.
Who is GM Jeff Goodman tanking for at this point?
I'm taking Harry Giles. You can talk Ayton all you want. You can take Bagley all you want. Their potential. I'm taking Giles because he's production and potential, and I can't find a fault in this kid.
And character counts.
Character,
and we all know
absolutely.
he's high character.
So to me, find any hole in Harry Giles. You can't find one.
You got to make free throws better. Not a good free throw shooter.
He did it. I talked to Sean Miller. He did it in Greece. He was pretty good for the line for the most part.
So the star power in 2016 is off the charts, 2017 and 2018 as well. A lot to look forward to as the summer goes on in high school basketball. Meanwhile, here in North Augusta, 49-42, the Georgia Stars 20 minutes away from a Peach Jam championship in the second half when we return.